Hello folks, I'm Mike, and this is my better half, Melvin.
Hi.
Now in this video, we want to take this old rolling wall cabinet that we've had for years and years, and we're going to convert it to a really nice kitchen island. But we didn't pay much money for this, did we?
No.
So we're not going to spend a whole lot of money fixing it up, right?
No.
But what would you like to see me do here?
Well, I would just like you to update the top and the back and make it more attractive looking.
Okay, and she used that just word. Anytime she says that, it's like a minimum 20 hours of work. But anyway, I was online. What do you think of this?
I like that.
So you really like that?
Uh-huh. Yep.
So folks, I think we have a plan. We're going to go from this to this. So y'all stay with us and we'll show you how we did it. Now folks, I'm going to do this a little different this time. This video has taken longer to put together than I thought it would. Matter of fact, I spent a lot more time editing video than I actually do building projects. So what I'd like to do, because I know that all of y'all are out there just waiting for my next video, sitting on pins and needles. So what I want to do is make this part one, and we're going to deal with making this back. In part two, coming up in a couple of weeks, we'll deal with making the top. And what you may want to do is go below and click that subscribe button and ring that bell. That way, in 2 weeks when that next video comes out, we'll send you a notice and you won't miss it. And also, while you're down there, you may as well like this video. So here's our strategy. We're going to take this hardwood back. We're going to resize it. Then we're going to cut a rabbet all the way around the back of the cabinet, and we're going to inset this panel in it. Then we're going to take 1/4 inch poplar, cut it in strips, and we'll use it to make that panel look. It's going to turn out great. It's going to be a fake panel, but it's going to look nice. Next, we're going to resize the top. We're going to put a oak veneer on top and band it with red oak, stain and varnish it. It's going to look great. Now, we got all these labels here and everything. We're going to remove all those. My wife has a method for doing that without damaging the wood, so we're going to let her tackle that. So here's a close-up of our construction, and you'll notice this back. It's just simply nailed over the back of the cabinet. Matter of fact, it overlaps the sides and overlaps this top. Now this won't work because we want our top to overlap the back of the cabinet. In other words, we should have a ledge or an edge protruding maybe 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch past the back panel. That will give it that nice kitchen island appearance, which also means we're going to have to rebuild this top. But the first thing I want to do is get this back off. And this construction we're going to have to do inside the cabinet, and I'll show you that next. And I just carefully work the back off with a putty knife. Now I'm going to remove the nails and just set it aside. Before we get geared up with cabinet making, I want to get the labels off these panels. Now my wife is the expert here, so I asked her for help, and she's using a product called Undo. There are probably others that work really well, but this is her favorite. And we'll try to put a link for this product and the others you see in this clip in the video description. But remember, if you purchase on one of these links, we will get a small commission. Just a heads up. Now notice that she doesn't saturate the entire label with the product, but she just works it along the edges and simply uses the scraper that's built into the model, and it comes right up. It'll also work on labels on a variety of surfaces. It will also make short work of this taped seam down the center of the panel. There's usually not much of a sticky residue left, but if there is, you can put some of this stuff on a rag or a paper towel and it'll clean right off. And we're done?
All done.
Mm-hmm.
This will dry out like no label has ever been there.
Now, will it be smooth?
Yes.
It's not it's not going to damage the surface, correct?
It's not damaging the surface at all.
Okay, great. Since the new back will no longer overlap the top, we're going to need to install a 1x2 piece and extend it from here to here, so we'll have something to nail to. So now I'm going to take a couple of thin square cut sticks and spread them across the opening till they touch on each side, and clamp them together, and we'll get an exact measurement. I've dropped my saw to the down position, and I'm going to butt up my measuring stick against the side of the blade and use the other end to set a stop. And now we'll tighten our guide, lift our blade, and we'll make our cut. If this looks awkward, well, it is. One thing I really don't like about this DeWalt saw is the horizontal handle, but We're going to go ahead and make a squaring cut on the end, move the board down, and make a final cut against the stop. Next, I'm going to mark the position of my pocket hole screws about 3/8 of an inch in from each side of the board, and then we'll turn it around and do the other end as well. If you're going to be cutting a rabbet deeper than 1/8 of an inch though, you'll probably need to add a little more distance from the edge of the board for your pocket hole screws. Now we can drill out the holes for our pocket hole screws, and then we'll be ready to go install our board. So now I'm going to clamp my board in place flush with the back of the cabinet. And I'm simply going to clamp it to the top. And once it's secure, I can run in my pocket hole screws. Now I've installed a rabbet cutting bit in my router, and it came with a set of interchangeable bearings, and I'm going to use one that will give me a 3/8 inch cut. We want the depth of the rabbet to exactly match the thickness of the back. So we'll put the router back together, and now we'll measure the thickness of the back and then try to lock that thickness in. We've put the cabinet on my shop work table, and we've removed the external wings, and now I'm removing the top casters. Now these are going to be in the way when we cut our rabbet. I've added some side supports for the router base to ride on for stability, and we can carefully cut our rabbet now. And once the rabbet's cut, I'll need to move my clamps because you can't really cut where the clamps are. So we're going to move them down the board a bit, and then we'll cut the area we missed. And I left the top attached, and it actually serves as a router support itself. Now I'm going to test the back piece and make sure the fit is flush. And now this is important because if it's inset, it's going to be difficult to glue our poplar strips to it. Now we'll simply move these guides around the board to the uncut sides and repeat the process for the other sides until we have it done. Now although we have a finished rabbet, your panel's still not going to fit here because the corners are all rounded because of the shape of the router bit. So I'm going to take a chisel, a good sharp one, and I'm going to clean up these corners and get them good and square. Now remember that the back panel was a little bit narrower than the width of the cabinet, and it was also taller than the base of the cabinet. So it's going to have to be trimmed down to fit into this rabbet. So we're going to take measurements, and then we're going to trim this down on the table saw until we get an exact fit in both directions. Make sure you keep your hands and fingers well away from the blade. I then sanded the back panels with coarse, medium, and then fine sandpaper up to 120 grit. Now when the back panel is fitted, next we'll test for square. Now to do this, you measure across the corners and tweak the fit until the tape measures exactly the same thing in both directions. That accomplished, I tacked it in place with 3/4 inch brad nails, and now it'll stay square until we have the back pieces installed. And after I tack it in place, I go ahead and measure again to make sure I didn't mess it up and get it out of square. And we're okay. I purchased some 1/4 inch thick poplar hardwood to create the raised panel look on the back of our cabinet. And I'm going to sand this coarse, medium, fine again through 120 grit before I actually cut them. And before trying to fit our pieces, I made a square cut on one end of each piece, and then I marked it. Then we're going to rip them into 2-inch width strips on the table saw. So we're looking at a finished cabinet back, and this is what my back's going to look like when it's done. And these right here, these slats, are the 2-inch pieces that we just cut to the correct width. And this is how we're going to lay out the back of the cabinet. Now, the 2 verticals on the outside corners will be cut from here to the exact height of the cabinet. These 2 pieces are identical. The 2 horizontals will be identical. We'll lay out the cabinet back, fit these, and these will be the same length. And they'll go from here to here. It's an inside cut. And last, certainly not least, we'll have to cut this piece. Now what we'll do is these other pieces, the other 4 pieces, we're going to clamp the cabinet together and then get it good and square, and then we'll fit this piece last. And this is a critical cut. It has to be the exact length from here to here. It has to be a flush fit, which this one is. There can't be a gap here, and of course if it's too long it won't fit at all. So I'm going to show you how to do that, so trust me, it'll all turn out great.
But before we fit our stalls and rails, there's one more little thing I need to take care of. Now there's a little arc or bow in the cabinet sides. So I'm going to take a straight edge here, and I'm going to push in until I get a good flush fit against both pieces. And then I'm going to tack the sides into place. And that'll hold that cabinet side into line till we finish.
So first we're going to cut the 2 vertical stalls to the exact length. So flush up even with the cabinet bottom with the first piece and mark the other end. Now we can use our square and extend that line and it'll be perfect, of course. Now we're going to flush up the bottom of the second side with the first side. And to do that I'm going to use a little block to square it up. And now you can transfer that line to the second piece. And again, use your square to square it up. And then when you look at them, of course, line them up. They should all be exact, and indeed they are. Now I'm going to go to the miter saw. I'm going to set a stop, and we're going to make both identical cuts. We can position our first vertical piece on one end and clamp it in place after making sure that it's flush with the top, the bottom, and the side of the cabinet. But the second vertical piece against it, and now we will measure the horizontal pieces. Now after we square cut one end, we're going to position the square end against the side piece, and we want to make sure that the edge is flush with the top of the cabinet, and now we can mark the other end. Then extend the line with your square. Now we can go to the other end of the cabinet and we can repeat the same process. Again, marking the end and extending the line with our square. And if your cabinet is good and square, the 2 lines will match, and they do in our case. Next, we'll test fit our pieces around the perimeter of the cabinet, and if our results are good, we're going to go ahead and clamp the stalls and the rails into place. And by the way, when I say stalls and rails, stalls are your verticals, rails are your horizontals. Now we can position the pieces and clamp them into place. Now notice that I'm using some 1/4 range wooden pads here. And we want to do this because bar clamps can often put a round depression in the wood when they're tightened, and that's really hard to sand out. To cut the center rib, I'm going to go back to my 2-stick strategy. We're going to spread the sticks to cover the gap, and then we're going to clamp them in place. Then we can go to the saw, set a stop of course, and cut the centerpiece to the exact length. And as you can see, it's good and snug. I'm sure many of you are wondering, what are we going to do about this? How's he going to support that? Well, I'll show you. So I cut these sticks, and I'm going to slip this up underneath and support this joint. Then we'll take these sticks and prop up against it, and that'll hold it in place and hold it tight. So now we know that the centerpiece has a good snug fit. But now we want to center it properly on the back for a nice appearance. So first take your tape or your yardstick and find center of the top or bottom horizontal rail. Now I'm measuring from both directions to double check that we're exactly centered. And of course you have to do both ends of the cabinet. Now next we're going to take the combo square and we're going to find center of the rib, and we do that by making a test mark measuring from both directions until we draw one line on top of the other. That's exact center. Now you can mark your ends. And now we can take the rib, match up the marks, and test fit, and guess what? We got it right. Now we can remove the clamps and start the glue up process. Now I'm using yellow original tight bond glue, but I've used other brands with pretty much the same results. Now with this type of glue, you need to apply it to both surfaces. When we have the first upright coated, I carefully position it flush with the cabinet side, and I'm going to tack it in place with my finish nailer.
Now this will give us a good foundation piece to build the rest of the cabinet back on. I'm using these long boards with clamps to make sure we apply pressure evenly down the length of the joint. Most boards like this are going to have a crown and a dish side. Make sure you put your crown side down, and that's going to help apply pressure to the center of the joint. Now that in place, I'm going to lay out all the rest of the pieces and just check my fit. And then we'll repeat this gluing process for each remaining piece. Now this is a slow process with the brush. You could use a small glue roller if you have one, and it'll really speed things up. Another thing, if you're going to use a wood stain on your back, you'll probably wish to avoid using the nail gun. Just be careful how you clamp everything in place. When we're done, we're going to be able to putty and sand over all of these nail holes, and then we're going to paint over them so you'll never see them again. But they might stick out like a sore thumb on a stain job. Also, keep a damp rag handy to wipe up excess glue, and that will save you a lot of cleanup and sanding later. When you glue up your center rib, remember that the 1/4 inch back is really not sufficient to nail to. So I'm going to position it carefully on the marks, and I'm going to use 2 boards to make sure I get a good glue joint. Now we'll wait at least an hour before we remove the clamps and go on to the next step. Next we move on to the finishing process. Now we're going to put on 3 coats of paint. Before painting, however, I used some spackling to putty the nail holes, and then I sanded them smooth and dry. I first put on a coat of stain blocking primer, and I followed that up by 2 coats of gloss enamel. And I gently scraped off the fuzzies and the debris between coats. So after 3 coats of paint, here's what the back will look like. Also, here's some before and after pictures of the cabinet itself. And of course, the next project will be the top. And of course, that's coming up in part 2 in a couple of weeks. Now, some of you more experienced folks may be wondering, why didn't he just take that panel, lay it on a table, put his strips on it, and then fit it to the back? And you know, that's not a bad way to do it. Matter of fact, if my panel had been from here to here and covered the entire back, that's exactly how I would have done it. However, my panel was short. It was about 3/8 inch or 9.5 millimeters short of covering the back. Not only that, it was in 2 pieces, but I was determined to use it because it was finished on the inside, and just too cheap to go buy another panel. So actually, the way I did it, rounding the back, may seem illogical, but it actually worked out very well, and it was really an easy fit. So either way is a good way to do it. Now also, be sure to go below, and we'd appreciate it if you would like our video, subscribe to our channel, and ring our bell. And we'll let you know when part 2 comes up, and our other videos. Also, be sure to send me a comment, a suggestion, a question if you need to, and I love to answer those. And I'll answer you personally. And until next time, thanks for watching.